Hi, my name is Cameron Smyth. Today I'm going to be discussing the Trump administration's controversial plan to build a wall along the southern border of the United States. Just to summarize, during the speech in which Trump announced that he would be running for president, he said, "I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me, and I'll build them very inexpensively. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I'll have Mexico pay for that wall." The idea of the border wall, as explained by Trump and his supporters, is that it will slow or stop the flow of illegal immigration into the United States through our southern border. Today I'm going to be arguing against the creation of the proposed border wall on the grounds that it would be irresponsibly expensive, ineffective at its intended purpose, and a symbol of American ignorance and xenophobia to our neighbor and trading partner, Mexico. I'm going to start by discussing the potential cost of the border wall, from President Trump's initial estimates to the current estimated cost. At a campaign speech in Dallas in 2015, President Trump is quoted as having said, "Let's say it costs $4 or $5 billion. Our trade deficit with Mexico is $53 billion, so $4 billion or $5 billion is small peanuts." However, in February of the following year, during a town hall in South Carolina, Trump increased his estimate slightly, saying that the wall would probably cost maybe $10 or $12 billion. So just in the course of a year, President Trump's estimate increased by over half, which is a substantial amount when you're discussing quantities of billions of dollars. So the president's estimates didn't stop at $10 or $12 billion, however, and in November of 2017, during an interview with Fox News, President Trump said, "They say the wall is going to cost $40 billion, the Democrats are saying. We're talking less than half." Just 2 years after his $4 or $5 billion estimate, Trump arrived at his current figure, an estimate almost 10 times his original. Interestingly, the report released by House Democrats actually estimated the cost of constructing the wall at $70 billion and added that it would most likely cost around $150 million a year to maintain, which is a figure that was not included by President Trump in his estimates. Now, the argument could be made that there is no cost too high to pay for our national security, but this argument relies on an important assumption. That assumption being that the wall would be effective at keeping out those seeking to enter the country illegally. In order to get a better idea of if the wall is a reasonable idea, let's consider that claim next. As a symbol, a wall is a powerful message. It clearly conveys a message of keep out. But the real question is if the symbol would legitimately be effective at keeping out those seeking to enter the country illegally, and the answer to that question certainly seems to be no. According to a Pew Research Center fact sheet published in 2006, nearly half of unauthorized migrants enter the United States perfectly legally through valid points of entry and are subject to search by immigration officials. One could argue that data from 2006 is no longer relevant and that methods of entry could have drastically shifted since then, so perhaps the data from a Center for Migration Studies 2017 report would be more relevant. This report found that since 2007, migrants overstaying their visas outnumbered those crossing the border illegally by 500,000. They also found that some 2/3 of the undocumented migrants who entered the country in 2014 did so not by illegally crossing some section of the border, but through screened entry ports, using valid temporary visas which they then overstayed. When we look at these statistics, we can see that a massive border wall fails to address the method that a sizable percentage of illegal immigrants use to enter the United States. And keeping in mind those $40 or $50 or $70 billion construction estimates, preventing only 1/3 or even half of entries by undocumented immigrants would make the wall appear to be a terrible decision from a cost-benefit perspective. Having discussed the constantly increasing cost of the border wall and the fact that it would be largely ineffective, my final point is one based on preserving our relationship with Mexico and indeed the world. Mexico is the United States' third largest trading partner according to the International Trade Administration and obviously our neighbor. Maintaining a strong relationship with Mexico would seem to be the most sensible course of action considering these facts, and from this perspective, the construction of the border wall is simply bad policy. In response to Trump's claim that Mexico would pay for the wall, then President Enrique Peña Nieto tweeted, "President Trump, no. Mexico will never pay for a wall. Not now, not ever. Sincerely, Mexico. All of us." This tweet seems to effectively sum up the feelings of the Mexican people towards the concept of the border wall. There are those who view the idea as ridiculous, understandably, And then there are those who seem to take offense at Trump's rhetoric regarding the Mexican people, most notably his assertion that Mexico is, quote, sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. And it's hard to view a statement like that from anything other than the perspective that it reveals a deep-seated ignorance and xenophobia upon which the idea for the wall was most likely founded. The idea that undocumented migrants commit more crime than native residents is entirely unfounded, and in fact, data from a report done by the Cato Institute on crimes committed in Texas, published in February, found that they commit crimes significantly less than native-born citizens. The report's author, Alex Nauertes, told the New York Times the criminal conviction rate for legal immigrants was about 85% below the native-born rate. So, in essence, the proposal to build the southern border wall is incredibly expensive, with estimates ranging from $40 to $70 billion, not including maintenance costs. It fails to address the methods that at least half of undocumented migrants are using to enter the country, and it is an affront to the Mexican people based on frankly racist and incorrect ideas about the rates at which migrants commit crime.